Hey YouTube fans, Eric Hayden here in the garden. We're going to take a break from the rose garden today to talk about some other things that we are doing with regards to an old compost pile. If you followed us for a while, you may have seen this pile in the distance, looking pretty hideous. I've done some videos on the compost pile itself, and I did show you that in addition to the shed doors that we were improving, we started to remove some of the top of the compost pile that hadn't composted. So I want to show you what we're doing and how you can kind of, put a lot of compost or things to compost in a certain area of the yard if you have future intentions. Then it makes it really easy to put in some new stuff because you've got great dirt there to work with. So we're going to continue what we did over here and do some encore azaleas on the ends of this area, and in the middle is a crepe myrtle. It's a black diamond crepe myrtle. It's a much darker vegetation, so it's going to look real nice in this area. The thing I want to point out is this is kind of a cold compost area. We put some kitchen scraps like lettuce and vegetable cuttings and stuff like that, but primarily all of this was old sod. Wherever we had roses, we removed centipede sod. So a lot of this was native soil. The first couple inches of my yard had topsoil added. So while I mentioned that I'm 3 miles from the coast, so we pretty much grow things in pure sand. I mean, this is 100% sand. The prior owners, or whoever the builder was, did a really good job laying down some topsoil for where they did the centipede. So I have more of what's called, or I call like a gray sand. It's still primarily sandy, but it's got some organic matter in it, and it looks pretty good. So most of this quote-unquote compost pile originally was old sod. All that sod I removed from all the rose beds I dug out, and I put it over here. So it's pretty close to what the native soil was in my yard, at least the first couple inches. Primarily sand, but a little bit of topsoil. And then through the years, anything, grass clippings, weeds. We didn't do any of the rose blooms or anything that had disease with it, but weeds, vegetation, and I mentioned kitchen scraps, not meat and stuff, but lettuce, corn husk, stuff like that. So when I'm going out here to plant these azaleas, look what I'm dealing with. Really, really good soil. You can actually still see some of the plastic that they use to hold the sod together. So again, we'll get rid of that. But really, really good mix of some sand, some organic material. You can see that hasn't fully broken down from the compost pile. And there's a hole there. So not only was it really easy to dig, it's going to really do these plants justice. And one thing azaleas like is a well-drained soil. So I don't know if you can tell the depth on this, but it's mounded up, and so it'll drain really well, and there's a lot of sand in it. So we're excited about this. Got pretty lucky because, again, I didn't want to get rid of that sod and just take it to the dump, even though they compost it there. I wanted to put it somewhere and eventually do something with this pile. So in that last video, anything on top that hadn't composted yet, I took away. And that's what cold composting is. You just kind of dump it in a spot. Eventually it breaks down. If you turn it and keep it watered, it will break down quicker. I didn't do that. This is about 3.5 years worth of compost and sod and things like that. So whatever didn't break down, we took to the dump so they could compost it, and now we're going to plant in it. So I'll finish up with what it looks like here at the end. You'll notice we had a lot of rain, so some of the dirt got up on the siding, but once we mulch this area in, probably with pine straw, especially around the azaleas, it should look good. So hold tight, we'll show you the finished project or product, but I did want to show you how you can turn an area of your yard by just putting a bunch of junk in terms of weeds and leaves and yard debris. Eventually it can turn into something worth planting in, and it certainly looks much better than it did before with those weeds that had yet to break down.